Okay, dear Dhamma friends, so we have come to the Dhamma sermon of this second day of this Kalalgoda English medium retreat. May you all settle down and give your consent by saying sadhu sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Seelavanta uso kottita bhikkhuna panchupadana kanda sunyato lo yoniso manasika tabbati. Dear Dhamma friends, as you may know that in this Kalalgoda English medium retreat, we were discussing a particular sutta called Seelavanta Sutta. This sutta actually you can find in Kanda Sangyutta. In Kanda Sangyutta, which is one part of the Sangyutta Nikaya, which explains about the 5 aggregates. Again, it is really interesting sutta, as yesterday also most respected Bhante explained. So, it has some radical reflection where rather than taking the traditional approach from Sila Samadhi Panya, so rather it has taken a step ahead and given morality into wisdom, that is Sila into Panya. So, the conversation happened between Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Mahakottita. Actually, as you know, both of them are well-known arahants. Venerable Sariputta has been the, only second to the Buddha. He is a marshal of the Dhamma. And Mahakottita, also one of the foremost disciples of the Buddha. So, both of them are arahants. So their conversation is not for their own understanding, rather it has a major benefit for ourselves. So investigating such sutta gives us a lot of insight. Therefore, among Vipassana teachers, this sutta is very popular because it gives a lot of fruit or a lot of resources for Vipassana meditation. Particularly, it explains about how one has to practice and what are the ways of looking at various things. And it is not only for the one who is new to the practice, but even for one who has attained Sotapanna, the same practice has to be continued if he likes to attain the second path fruition, that is to become a Sakadagami. And again, if Sakadagami wants to become a Anagami, the same thing has to do. When someone who is Anagami, non-returner, wants to become fully enlightened, or rather enlightened, Arahant, then the same thing he has to do. So it's a kind of a fine-tuning of the faculties, getting a deeper and deeper understanding. So that is how it seems that the understanding, the wisdom is developing. So therefore, clearly understanding these aggregates, clearly understanding these terms, really helpful to us so that we'll, without misleading ourselves, we may be able to handle these things, understand these things very carefully. So, yesterday, respected Bhante talks about feeling and how we might miss in between neither pleasure nor pain feeling. Adukkhama sukha vedana. Because we'll be mostly trying to get hold on to happiness, the pleasure, and to get rid of the pain. So we are missing the large majority, that is the equanimity. That is the neither pleasure nor pain feeling. So in a way, meditation is mostly developed, grounded on this neither pleasure nor pain feeling. If we simply to think about the Vedananupassana. But on the other hand, When it comes to the form, we can say there are certain other approaches. When it comes to the mind, there may be certain other approaches, and maybe when it comes to the mind states, there may be another approach. But mostly, since we are experiencing neutral feelings, so when we are observing our bodies, or when we are observing the feeling, that is the mostly what we are experiencing. So by going through it, we may be getting various insights. So one insight of this is what we call as emptiness. So today I thought of discussing a little bit on that approach, and what is called emptiness, and what is called sort of hollow, and why we are interested about it. So basically, according to the Buddha's teaching, sometimes we, in order for understanding this mind-body process, we are using 5 aggregates. As you may know, so Buddha is explaining form, that is the rupa, then the feeling, that is vedana, perception, that is sanya, then the mental formations, that is sankhara, then the consciousness, vijnana, and that is what actually evolving, that is what actually changing, that is what actually occurring. But falsely, we identify with them as I am, or sometimes as me, or as myself. Say for example, so if I am asking a question, how tall are you? Or what is your height? So then we may answer, okay, I am 5 feet and 6 inch height. So basically our answer indicates, so I have directly identified with the body. So we are telling, okay, this body is 5 feet and 6 inch height. So but we are interpreting it as I am 5 feet and 6 inch height. So you can see our language immediately gives this answer, and we don't analyze in detail, or we don't ponder too much about it, but we habitually tell it and we recognize it. And if someone tells, no, you are too short, or you are too tall, or like that, if there are someone trying to intimidate us, so then we get angry, because we strongly recognize, strongly identify about this identification that I am 5 feet and 6 inches. I am so much so. I am 4 feet. I am 6 feet. So likewise, so we strongly recognize. Say another example. If someone is telling, okay, you are fat, and he's trying to belittle you, and then you get upset if you are really fat, and if it is a problem to you, then you get really upset because you recognize that you are fat. But actually the body is fat, but you recognize as that I am fat and it is bothering to me. And maybe if you are lean, someone is telling, oh, look at you, so you become really lean. Why don't you get some food? Why don't you get some vitamin? So likewise someone might tell. So you immediately recognize, so I am lean. So here indicates that we strongly recognize with our body, strongly identify with our body. And even for our identity cards, our passports, so we take the pictures of this body, of this face, and then we paste there, scan there and put it. So we recognize with the body, this is I am. So when we find a photo, so immediately if it is a group photo, we try to recognize where I am. Okay, this is I am. So likewise, we simply try to recognize, identify with this body as me or mine or I am. So it's a strong perception in us, wrong perception in us, that body is I am. So immediately, rather than telling it is wrong, so we need to understand, we take for granted this body as I am. Similarly, sometimes we say, okay, I was feeling really bad. So that indicates, so I am feeling bad. At that time, okay, I was feeling bad, so I was really happy. So that indicates kind of a mental state kind of a feeling tone that with which we identify, with which we recognize. So I was happy, I was sad. So at that time, the mind was happy and the mind was sad. The mental state was happy or sad, but we immediately recognize that I am happy, I am sad, I am feeling sad. So likewise, we can easily recognize with this feeling as well. So sometimes we used to say, okay, so now I am preaching and you are listening. So based on the action what we are doing, we recognize, okay, I am preaching, I am talking. So you are listening. So this is how, in terms of the action, what we are doing, again we can identify. So when I am walking, I simply say, I am walking. When I am, say, someone is, say, dancing, so I am dancing. Something like that. Based on the action, we recognize. So likewise, but the beauty is, even though we recognize with these actions, we are not continuously doing that action. Time to time we change the action. But unfortunately, at that given time, if someone is arguing with us, we get upset. If someone is challenging us, then we get upset because we are so attached to that action. We are taking it for granted. We are so attached to it. And we feel that I am. So it in a way be difficult to understand because it is so ingrained to us. From our childhood, we are learning with these terms. And when something is thinking, that is also we recognize. So I am thinking. I thought that you may not come. I thought it's going to rain. So likewise, so from the thinking also, we are understanding or we are recognizing, we are identifying. So if we analyze further and further, we can further understand that by recognizing these 5 aggregates, giving a lot of insight. So therefore, having a good understanding about these 5 aggregates, 5 khandhas, gives us a very strong, deeper understanding about the Buddha's teaching. So that's why in the various suttas, Buddha refers these aggregates and explaining Dhamma teaching, referring these aggregates. And knowingly or unknowingly, we are recognizing, we are identifying either with one aggregate or several aggregates at any given time. So at any given time, if you are not mindful, remember that you are recognizing, you are identifying with one of these aggregates. So it's a kind of a challenging term. Just whenever you are not mindful, that means you are deluded. Deluded with what? Based on any of these aggregates. So don't think that when we consider this form, this body, so we are identifying only with this internal body, this what we can see. But we recognize with this whole, either internal, external, past, future, present, near or far, subtle or gross. So all these are types of form where Buddha explains in the form aggregate, Rupa Khandha. So it's all encompassing, nothing is missed. So in a way it is the whole material world we can say as the matter or as the Rupa. So any of these, whenever the physical world, if we are attached to, if we are identifying, if we are recognizing, if we get attached to it, so then remember, so we have gone wrong with the form aggregate. So there's one beautiful sutta called Pena Pindupama Sutta, which also comes in the Khandha Samyutta. At one occasion, Buddha and the Sangha were resting at the Ganges, where in India, in Ganges. So several monks were there, the Buddha was there. And Buddha gives a very profound teaching while all were there. And Buddha says, I am just referring the translation from Bhikkhu Bodhi. Bhikkhus, suppose that this river Ganges was carrying along a great lump of foam. A man with good sight would inspect it, ponder it, and carefully investigate it, and would appear to him to be void, hollow, insubstantial. For what substance could there be in a lump of foam? So basically, he is now first presenting a simile. A man is there, so he see in this river Ganges, so there's a lump of foam. So it's maybe white in color and appears like solid from the bit far distance. And he goes to that and he closely investigates it. He wants to fully understand what it is. He didn't know about foam before. Now he simply go there and he investigates it. He ponders about it. He look at it closely. And then he understood, so it is nothing but kind of a bubble. Nothing is in it other than the air. So it is hollow. It is empty. It is insubstantial. So that is the direct understanding he is getting by experience, by his own direct experience after investigating this lump of foam. So then Buddha continues, so too bhikkhus, whatever kind of form there is, whether past, future or present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, a bhikkhu inspects it, ponders it, and carefully investigates it. And it would appear to him to be void, hollow, insubstantial. For what substance could there be in form? So here the form means F-O-R-M, that is the Rupa. So previously F-O-A-M, that is the form, as you know, the form made up through the water bubbles. So here what as the practice Buddha refers is that someone is meditating. A monk or nun or upasaka, upasika, whoever is practitioner. Now he too is investigating. He too is also observing this rupakkhandha, this form. Say he develops certain amount of concentration and then he experiences various types of sensations. Okay, at a time he feels heavy. And sometimes he experiences lightness. Sometimes the hot feeling. Sometimes the cold. Sometimes gross. Sometimes stiff. Sometimes tough. Sometimes soft. So all these are characteristics of the elements. And all these things he is investigating. He closely inspects those. Closely observes them. And after observing, he understands, so this body is nothing but these elementary characteristics. So it's an entirely shifting of the understanding, kind of the perspective. Previously, before meditation, we were thinking this body as I am. So I explained before that I was telling that I am, say, 5 feet 6 inch height. So that means I was recognized, I was identified with the body, strongly, blindly. But now with the meditation, rather than simply taken such thing for granted, he, with a equanimous mind, with a concentrated mind, is experiencing this body. He's experiencing this bodily phenomena. He's experiencing what is made up with this body, that is the 4 elements. And 4 elements manifest as these characteristics, as hot, cold, light or weight, heavy, stiffness or softness, grossness or smoothness. Likewise, these characteristics are there. So with a concentrated, equanimous mind, so someone is experiencing these things. More and more someone is experiencing, more and more someone is observing through his meditation, the entire shifting of the perspective happens. Then he understands, kind of an insight arises, as Buddha says, what is there in this body? It's nothing other than four elements. Everything is changing. Everything is arising and passing away. So all are like a form, like what Buddha is telling at the Ganges river. Similarly, that Buddha is telling, for what substance could there be in the form? So he may come to a very deeper understanding, deeper insight. So even though at the beginning I was taken this body as a something unit, as a one solid form, now everything becomes scattered. Everything becomes kind of elements. Everything becomes arising and passing away. Everything becomes trembling. So this is a kind of a very profound and in a way very striking experience. So sometimes when certain yogis feel it, so it's giving some kind of a fearful effect in the mind. Sometimes it depends on the concentration, depends on the yogi to yogi, but it is a really awakening, really enlightening experience, because so much so we were identified with the body as I am. When we are experiencing this kind of difference of the perspective, so it is kind of a radical experience. It's kind of a difficult experience. But time, slowly, more and more, again and again, when someone is experiencing it, it becomes evident, it becomes so clear to him or her that it is the reality, it is the truth. So, similarly, Buddha explains about the feeling also. So, feeling is something that we continuously experience, either pleasure or pain, that is the two extremes, and majority is the neither pain nor pleasure, that is the equanimity type of experience. So every time we are experiencing any one of these three. So there Buddha gives a different simile. So I am referring the same book. Suppose bhikkhus that in the autumn, when it is raining and big rain drops are falling, a water bubble arises and bursts on the surface of the water. A man with good sight would inspect it, ponder it, and carefully investigate it. And it would appear to him to be void, hollow, insubstantial. For what substance could there be in water bubble? So you can see, yesterday also we were experiencing rain. So water is dropping, rain's dropping, and once it is generating certain water bubbles, it immediately bursts. It creates a water bubble, immediately burst. Creates a water bubble, immediately burst. So this is the simile that Buddha is giving for feeling. It may be pleasurable feeling, it may be painful feeling, it may be neither pleasure nor pain feeling. Any three kind of feeling, this is the simile Buddha is giving. So that means the same kind of transience, same kind of impermanence is common to any kind of these feelings. So irrespective of whether we like it or not, so they are changing. So similarly, Buddha gives the practice. So to bhikkhus, whatever kind of feeling there is, whether past, future or present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, a bhikkhu investigates it, ponders it, and carefully investigates it. And it would appear to him to be void, hollow, insubstantial. For what substance could there be in feeling? So Buddha directly tells, so similarly, like someone with clear eyesight understands that water bubbles are merely hollow, insubstantial. Similarly, when someone's with the practice experiencing this changing nature of the feelings, he may understand these are very much like that water bubbles. So they are also appearing and disappearing. Even though I like it or not, they come and go. They are insubstantial, nothing inside it. There is no essence in it. So they are all in kind of a transience. So say for example, suppose you develop certain amount of concentration and you develop some equanimity and you are able to equanimously observe these feelings. Okay, some pain occur. So rather than getting angry or rather than feeling frustrated, suppose you are able to pay your attention closely to this painful feeling. At the beginning it may appear as one unit. But if you are with good concentration, if you are able to maintain your attention fairly long at that particular pain, then it starts dissolving. Then you are able to understand it is not just a one unit, rather it's a kind of a changing nature, rather it is changing with lot of pains, minor, small, many pains, collection of pains are there. But immediately we won't get it, but more closely we observe it, experience it, then we get this deeper understanding that even though it appears like pain, it is nothing but some changing, some vibration. So similarly the, say, pleasurable feeling, rather than attaching to it, if we are simply maintaining equanimity and observe it, similarly pleasure also consists of this kind of phenomena. It is nothing but a combination of minor pleasurable feelings. So all these things starting and disappearing, or appearing and disappearing, arising and passing away. So there is no essence in it. So this also kind of a deeper understanding, again a revealing, and there are many practitioners who are more inclined towards Vedananupassana, so they simply observe these various types of feelings and more they investigate feeling. More and more they closely observe that, so they get more detached from feeling. So when they feel pleasurable feeling, they are not going to elated state because they understand this, even though this present feeling is pleasurable, it may disappear after a while. Similarly, if there is a painful feeling, they may not get too much frustrated because they understand this is also transient, this is also impermanent, and after a while this may disappear. So they give this kind of investigation, give a lot of insight, lot of maturity to ourselves, because as yesterday also Bhante said, so we are running away from the pain and running after the pleasure. So but this kind of investigation gives us a very deeper meaning to our life, so that we have a kind of a balanced attitude. So whenever this kind of investigation happens, so kind of an attitude also change, because so far we were identifying with form as I am, this body as I am, feeling as I am. But now we see body as body, we see feeling as feeling. So it's a kind of a changing of the perspective. We step back and start to recognize or start to understand these things are processes. Nothing to recognize, nothing to identify. They don't behave as I wish. So we in a way understand the non-self. So more and more we understand these kind of insights, more and more we get these kind of insights, so we get some kind of gap between our experience and ourselves. So we are able to experience certain things without much involvement. So there's a beautiful sutta called Bahya Sutta, comes in the Udana Pali, where Buddha directly tells why the suffering happens and what is the end of the suffering. So as you know, we all are practicing to end suffering. So we know that going through this human body after becoming to old age, we are going through a certain amount of sickness, and ultimately we have to die. So if we not get enlightened, again we have to get rebirth, and again going through the same suffering, again going through the aging, again the sickness, sorrow, lamentation, all these things are there, again going to die, again going to rebirth. So it's an endless path. So why we are practice is in a way to free from suffering. So why we suffer? So according to the Buddha's teaching, whenever we identify with any of these aggregates as I, as mine, then only we are going to suffer. So remember that in a way it's difficult to understand. It is not the aggregates themselves are suffering, but when we recognize them, when we identify with them, when we think that this body is I am, this body belongs to me, this feeling is I am, these feelings belongs to me. So whenever this I part comes in, that is the one creating the suffering. So in this Bahya Sutta, it's a very well-known sutta. So Buddha explains to Bahya, telling that when seen occurs, there is just seen. When hearing occurs, there is just hearing. When sense occurred, there is just the sensed. When the cognition occurs, there is just the cognition. So it's in a way a bit difficult to understand, because when we see, we don't stop at seeing. So say for example, when I am seeing there, so immediately I might say, okay, I am seeing the buffalo. So I didn't stop at the seeing. So when I am hearing something, so rather than immediately stop at hearing, I immediately interpret, immediately go too far and telling, okay, it's a bird, it's a crow, it's a vehicle. So likewise, I go too far. But here what Buddha says as a restrainment to Bahya is that when seeing, stop at the seeing. When hearing, stop at hearing. When sensed, stop at sensed. When cognition happens, stop at cognition. Don't go too far. Keep it at the bare attention. So if we are able to do that, then Buddha says, then you are not created at that scene. You are not created what is heard. You are not created what is sensed. You are not created what is cognized. When you are not created on that end, you are not created in this end. And similarly, when both are not present, you are created in between. The last part is the beautiful thing, and Buddha says, so this is the end of the suffering. So it's a kind of eye-opening, because Buddha refers that this is the end of the suffering. Just this itself is the end of the suffering. So you see that first Buddha is telling that when we are seeing something, don't identify with it. Don't get attached to it. And don't create I from that. When you are hearing something, don't attach to it. Maintain some distance. Just stop at hearing. Don't create I. When you sense something, don't attach to it. Don't create I from what is sensed. When some thoughts occur to the mind, don't attach to it. Don't think that I am thinking. Don't create I based on what is going on in the mind. If so, I is not made. When there is no I created, there is no suffering. So in a way, this is what we are trying to do through meditation. So in a way it is difficult to understand, is it the real thing happening? So then what happened to me? So who is the one understanding? So there are various questions coming to our mind, lot of doubts. Okay, who is suffering? So who is I am? Who is me? So then lot of doubts happening. All these doubts are in a way kind of hindrances. So that's why as the fifth hindrance we call vicikiccha. So if we get various types of doubts, that itself creates kind of a friction for practice. So in a way it is very difficult to understand all the theory and then practice. And while practice, apply the theory. So all these things are a bit difficult to handle. But when we are going through the practice, in a way what is really happening is the I creation is reduced. When we are not practiced, so typically we are not mindful. Very often we create I. Very often we create mind. We recognize with the experience. But here, we listen to the Buddha's teaching, we keep a lot of faith to the Buddha's teaching, and we practice. And we investigate the experience very mindfully, with a lot of equanimity. And then I creation happens only at seldom, only at occasionally, not frequently. And each and everywhere with this recognition happens, there also we have to practice vipassana. So that is where pancha upadana khanda. Upadana khanda means aggregates are there. Now we recognize, okay, where I attach to these aggregates. Now it is not often happening, but time to time I get attached. Otherwise I am just simply being mindful. So I am maintaining some equanimous mind. But still sometimes I get upset. Sometimes I get some friction. Sometimes I get tensed. That indicates I was identified. That indicates I was clinging to any of these aggregates. At that time we have to practice. So that is why the sutta itself states that the Seelavanta Sutta, Panchupadana Khanda Aniccato Yoniso Manasikatabbati. Then and there, when such clinging happens, grasping happens, there we have to practice. So, when we consider like this, it is nothing but mere experience is going on. The body is changing, body is in a continuous flux, mind is also changing, mind is also giving various transient states. So what has to be taken as I? So that is where the teaching of the emptiness comes. So emptiness is in a way kind of an inherent quality. It is not something artificial, it is not something introduced, but emptiness is the reality. Just to give some idea, now suppose before we come to this retreat, now all doors were closed in this hall. So we can say this hall was empty. But now one by one all of us came in. Now is the hall empty? Now hall is not empty. But suppose if you want to see the emptiness, is it difficult to see the emptiness? Now say, now all of us are here. But still, when we look around, immediately what our mind catches, immediately what our eye catches is ourselves. Okay, when you are seeing me, okay, you see me. When I see you, I see all of you. Because my mind immediately catches the objects. But if I am able to deviate from these objects, if I am able to change my attention from these objects, is it difficult for me to see the emptiness? So now only say 6 feet inch range you all are sitting. On top of that, what it is? So say below the roof and on top of this above your all heads, so what is available? It is nothing but the space. So is it difficult to figure out the space? The space is there. But we can't see the space or we can't understand the space because our mind immediately catches the objects. So you are here, he's a male, he's a female, he's a old person, he's a young person, he's a youth, so it's a buffalo, this is a recorder. So all these are objects and we immediately recognize the objects and we miss the vast majority, that is the space. So even though a lot of people are here, still the vast majority is the space. Similarly, now when you see deeply, even in Anapanasati, so it in-breath happens, out-breath happens, in-breath happens, out-breath happens, slowly, slowly, slowly. Suppose you are able to see some kind of a gap also, in between in-breath and out-breath, in between out-breath and in-breath. As you are going on in the practice, this gap starts to spread. More and more, then you start to experience the space. Is that space created by you? Was that space there? So that space was there, but our immediate recognition couldn't recognize it. Our immediate mindfulness couldn't understand it because mindfulness is not sharp enough. But when our mindfulness develops, when our concentration develops, that vast emptiness, vast space, we are able to trace, we are able to catch, we are able to notice. Similarly, suppose in our mind, so frequently if our mind is constantly thinking, so we may think, so mind has no gap, thinking happens incessantly without any kind of a gap. But through the practice, we will understand in between certain thoughts, in between two thoughts, similarly there's a gap. And according to the Buddha, mind itself is empty, mind itself is luminous. So we may be refusing to accept it. I mean, if someone is telling, even though you are a bad person, suppose someone is coming, say drunken and done a lot of bad things, and we simply can say, even though you are a bad person, originally you are a good person. So then he may get upset, okay, I am doing so much of nasty things, but he is telling something different. So Buddha says, Pabassaramidam bhikkhave chittang tanchako agantukehi upakkilesehi upakkilittang. This comes in the Anguttara Nikaya, in the first Nipata. So Buddha says, luminous bhikkhus is this mind, but it is defiled due to this foreign or adventitious defilements. So these defilements are external, and these external defilements comes and pollute the mind. But the original nature of the mind is purity. Purity is nothing but emptiness. So, through the meditation, especially through the vipassana, so what we are trying to do is not that we are introducing something new. Rather, we are trying to empty the mind, trying to purify the mind, to remove the objects and see the original nature. So it's a kind of a unloading process. It's a kind of a unlearning process. Kind of a revealing process. It is not a kind of a conditioning process. We are not trying to condition the mind, telling, okay, it is impermanent, it is suffering, it is non-self. We are not conditioning. Rather, we engage with the practice out of faith on the Buddha. And through the practice, mind itself starts to understand, my real nature is beautiful. My real nature is happy. My real nature is peaceful. But when I am associating these external defilements, I get defiled. I get deluded. Then mind itself understands, so what the purpose of getting deluded? What the purpose of getting defiled? What the purpose of getting burnt? So I can be to myself. So more and more vipassana happens. As I said, even in the afternoon, the doing process converts into non-doing. Not to do anything, just being. Because mind is now fairly purified. So at the beginning there are a lot of hindrances coming in, bombarding the mind, and it is continuously getting troubled. So we are trying to keep away things. So we are removing things, we are safeguarding the mind, protecting the mind as much as possible. Then the luminosity happens. The luminous mind starts to happen. Emptiness starts to appear. But unfortunately, this original nature of the mind is extremely boring. So that is the most difficult part to explore or to develop, because we are used to be with defilements. We are used to encourage defilements. We are used to entertain defilements. So defilements are the ones motivating ourselves. Defilements are the ones feeding ourselves. And we are enjoying defilements. And when we find an undefiled state of mind, it appears to us like extremely boring. So we get up and stop the meditation. Or we change the object. We change the teacher. We change the center. Because we feel bored. But suppose someone is getting convinced, okay, don't get up, don't just keep going, don't introduce a new object, this is the way it is, this is the nibbida, okay, you listen to various Dhamma talks again and again, convince yourself, it actually needs someone else's help. Because without someone else's help, you can't jump this hurdle. Because it is extremely without a taste. It is like a pure water. So we like to drink a Coca-Cola. We like to drink a coffee. We like to drink a Faluda, whatever thing. But we don't like to drink just water. But pure water is the most beneficial thing to our body. So similarly, this state of mind, this fresh, empty, pure state of mind is the natural state of the mind, undefiled state of the mind, luminous state of the mind. Unfortunately, we push it away. So through the practice, we are keep on getting to this state. It is not that all of you haven't touched this state. Through practice, all of you have touched this state. Unfortunately, we couldn't recognize it because we haven't make it abundant. It may be happening spontaneously and we couldn't notice it. Even if we notice it, we found it extremely boring, so we missed it. We neglected it. But through the practice again and again it is happening. If we are going through the proper practice. And once it is happening again and again, and you are getting some advice also, you are getting some knowledge from the text also to encourage to be with it, abide by it, abide by the emptiness. Then only you will see, okay, it is the frictionless state. It is the undefiled state of the mind. And more and more one is experiencing it, he may be understanding that whenever even a subtle defilement comes, it bothers the mind, it defiles the mind, and therefore he simply just understand the defilement, how it is coming in and going on, going out. But the emptiness is not harmed. Therefore, he is not getting shaken by the defilement, because he is now so established in the emptiness. So, therefore, sometimes in the Chittanupassana Buddha says, Saragan chittanti pajanati. Vitaragan chittanti pajanati. So Buddha doesn't give any kind of a special value for the generous feeling or any kind of repulsiveness to the lustful feeling, but he gives kind of a equal value, because now the mind is established. Now the mind is established in mindfulness, and the yogi has recognized the unwavering of the mind, emptiness of the mind, and he knows that even the lustful thought occurs, it may go. Even generous thoughts occur, it may go. And he is not bothered to these qualities now, because qualities are transient. Now he simply values this emptiness, this bare attention, this mindfulness more than these transient states of the mind. Say sometimes you may feel really faithful. So certain people are there, so they are continuously chanting, tears are coming, continuously praying, and lot of faith is there. So beautiful mind in a way. But that also goes away. Some people are there continuously angry, so continuously burning. But that also impermanent. But I am giving a rough example here. But when the yogi develops, so sometimes faith occurs, but he, at this stage of vipassana, he is not kind of bothered to keep it for a long time, because he understands even this faith is transient, even this generosity is transient, even this loving kindness is transient. Similarly, even this lust is transient, even this hatred is transient. So none of these either good or bad state of the mind, therefore he recognizes. Rather he values the clarity of the mind. So clarity of the mind becomes so important to that yogi. So continuously he is trying to keep the mind empty. Keep the mind untroubled, unentangled. Because when the mind associates an object, that object colors the mind. But if the mind is empty, so it has its own nature. It has its own purity. It is not necessary to have anything external to purify it, but its original nature is pure. Original nature is beautiful. Original nature is luminous. So that's why Buddha is telling, Pabassaramidam bhikkhave chittam. So this original nature of our mind are beautiful. So all of us as human beings, therefore in a way very lucky, because we have this beautiful teaching. That's why Buddha says, only the only his say learned, instructed disciples know the value of this mind. But someone who haven't touched the teaching, haven't heard the teaching, haven't associated the true people, they don't know that there's a true nature of the mind. This the pure nature of the mind of all of us is like this. He haven't heard about it, so he never practiced. But someone who heard the teaching, someone has the faith, someone who is having the faith of the Buddha's teaching, of the Buddha, of the Sangha, so he understands at the moment it is true that my mind is not completely pure, but originally it is pure. Inner nature is pure. So now it's a matter of slowly removing these outsiders. It is not my inherent nature, but rather these intruders, rather these strangers. These foreigners are defiled, foreigners are making me unhappy. These external objects are making me stressed. And slowly he becomes unstressful, without tension, keeping the mind empty, keeping the mind spacious. So he starts to value the awareness, just the bare attention, the mindfulness, and keep the mind fairly clean, equanimous, empty. So then he is experiencing this emptiness. So therefore we need to see, so this teaching of the Buddha gives us a kind of an inner journey to find out our own inner nature. It is not something bad or it is not something disgusting, but ultimately what we all have is kind of a pure state of mind, and that is what we are slowly approaching. And therefore, so when one understands the value of maintaining such mind, maintaining such pure, empty awareness, then he understands no point of attaching to these external things, no point of holding these thoughts, no point of holding any grudges, no point of holding any of these either good or bad thoughts. Rather I be with the emptiness. Rather I be with the mindfulness, bare attention, simplicity. Then Buddha says to each and every satipatthana, Buddha emphasizes, anissitocha viharati nachakinchi loke upadiyati. So after each and every practice of the satipatthana, therefore Buddha says, the practitioner, after seeing this reality, after having this insight, he keeps himself independent. Anissitocha viharati. So he doesn't go to associate too much with others. Don't go to associate with too much various objects. He doesn't crowd his mind. He don't fill his mind with various things. Because by filling the mind get defiled. Mind get disturbed. You are losing the emptiness. You are harming the emptiness. So therefore he keeps anissita, independent. Nachakinchi loke upadiyati. So he does not grasp the things in the world. He maintains some kind of serene, equanimous, empty state of mind. So therefore, we need to understand, so this is where we are heading towards. This is where the path takes us. So if you feel little bored, don't try to get up. If you feel little monotonous, so don't immediately get up. If you feel that you are neither happy nor unhappy, kind of equanimous, don't feel bored. It may be the path you need to follow. So don't try to get immediate conclusions, because typically we are giving values based on the defilements. So more and more we practice, more and more the equanimity develops. Mindfulness develops. Through the mindfulness, through the wisdom, then we are understanding what is this empty nature of the mind. So we make that empty nature of the mind more and more, then we are able to understand, okay, this is the path. This is the thing that I need to understand as the pure state of mind. With respect to this pure state of mind, oh, this is a defilement. This is a transient thing. This is an impermanent incident. This is the state of a mind which is impermanent. So I haven't need to prepare or create this emptiness. It is not something I created. It is the natural thing. It is the inherent thing of the mind. It's already there. So we don't need to create the space of this room. It is there. So it's a matter of paying our attention to emptiness, or just removing the external objects so that it is visible, it is easy to see the emptiness. Similarly, so more and more we investigate, we abide by with this emptiness, we understand the value of it. So with that note, I conclude today's Dhamma sermon. So I invite you to observe these things closely. So don't think that these things are extremely far away. Actually, we observe these things, or we experience these things, but we miss the point. But we give wrong values to certain transient things, pleasures and the pains, and missing the in-between. Therefore, develop mindfulness, bear attention, trust in the awareness, then ultimately we may be able to touch the emptiness also, make it abundant, make it available for ourselves at any given time, and with respect to that we are able to purify the mind from the various defilements, and ultimately we may be able to attain path fruition, Nibbana. Thank you very much for listening. Okay, yesterday also we didn't share the merits. So typically at the end of the Dhamma sermon we share merits. So today also many were involved in giving dana. And again yesterday also many people were involved in giving dana. And we share these merits with all of them. And similarly we all were practicing diligently. So we have accumulated a lot of merit. So we share these merits with all the passed away relatives. If they are in need of merit, may they receive these merits and be happy and be free from suffering. Similarly, we share these merits with all the seen and unseen beings. If they are in need of merit, may they receive these merits and may they be free from suffering. And we share these merits with all the gods, all the heavenly beings. May they rejoice in this teaching, may they rejoice in these merits, and may they also fulfill their aspirations. So all these merits help us also to be free from suffering. While keeping these things in our mind, let us chant the traditional verses. Ittavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha ca bummatta devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu sasanang. Akasattha ca bummatta devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu desanang. Akasattha ca bummatta devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu mamparang. ඉදං වෝ ඥාතීනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉදං වෝ ඥාතීනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉදං වෝ ඥාතීනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බාන පත්තියා ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බාන පත්තියා ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බාන පත්තියා සාදු සාදු සාදු